Welcome to the Commodore keys video. Yes, finally, after all this time, I can do this video. I suppose it's 3 years in making, although I actually wasn't doing YouTube at the time. But I want to stipulate that all what you're going to see is physical machines. There's no rendering, there's no nothing. These are all proper machines that you're going to see. I think I have to first go back about 3 years so you know the backstory, because some people don't know me personally or have never seen any of the videos that I do or whatever else. So about 3 years ago, obviously COVID was, we were just out of COVID, we could go back to shows and things like that. Now I go to a localish show to me, Southwest Amiga show in Chipping Sodbury, and it used to be a couple of times a year. Now that's just changed, but that's not the issue. And when I went there, there was three of us, like two engineers. Well, I would say they're engineers, but they know how to everything about an Amiga. They know how to change the capacitors and things like that. So we were just chatting in this room, and we were chatting about things like cases and things like that. And we were commenting on one of the guys because he can paint them and he does a beautiful job of spraying them. But the trouble is, they were all at the time they had the old keys on, and I said, "Oh, it just doesn't look right." You know, even if a machine is yellow and the keys are yellow, it sort of fits in with it, even though maybe some people don't like it. I just think it's authentic. That's just the way that machine is. You know, you can do what you want with your machine. But anyway, so by the by with that. So anyway, as we were chatting, and I said, "Oh, what would be really nice if we could, you could make your own keys." But the trouble is, going to getting an injection molding is about 40 to 100,000 quid. It's immensely expensive to get done, and obviously we don't have any blueprints or whatever. And there's two guys, one called Scott, and they know it, and one called Derek. Now Derek has his own thing, so if you want any Amiga stuff fixing, the capacitors and all sorts, just go to Amiga Spirit, have a look at him. He's such a gentleman, and he'll help you out. And they also do it at the show. So if you want to come to this show, book yourself in. I think it's September, sometime September. Bring your Amiga in. You'll have to split it down to what he wants, and he'll fix it, have a look for it, change the capacitors and all sorts. So I think Scott does it again now as well. So anyway, and I think there's another one does it there. I don't really know, but that's how it goes. But anyway, so like I said, we were having a conversation, and Scott turned around and says, "Well, you could do it with 3D printing." Now he works for a games company, so he's a 3D artist, so he knows obviously, I assume Maya and all whatever he does. I said, "What the hell is 3D printing?" Because most people don't even know what 3D printing is. It's obviously come through the mainstream now. It's more, you can buy all these things that are 3D printed, but you couldn't at the time, obviously the years ago, probably about 10 years old maybe now, maybe slightly more. So he mentioned that, and I said, "What do you think you could do? You think it could be done?" I said, "Well, I don't know, but you could have a look at that." So Joe Muggins me. That was the time that in the UK where we had that 40 degrees heat, and so I was actually in this room. I'd moved everything in this room, like your bedroom, and I was painting next door. I always remember it because I was painting in my pants. Not that you really need to know that, but that was it. At 6 o'clock in the morning, it was 30-degree heat then, and I'm painting So I'm doing the reason why is because I was doing some research. So I had me TV in a bed in here, and I was watching it because obviously I couldn't go next door because I was painting. And so I'd done weeks of research and thought, "Oh, okay, maybe this can be done." Now, this is probably the hardest project I've ever undertaken, because 3D printing, especially for me, what you don't realise, a 1 millimeter change you might as well call it the Grand Canyon, because that's how it is. It's such a small thing, but it's just so important. You get these things right. So that's why it's taken this long, and I'll go through that as we go through. So anyway, so I spent the time about early 23. All I had was a couple of keys being able to do. And the reason why is I find out, the company says, "Oh, put this in," and it's a bed. I should have had the machine. I should have had the flatbed with me. You would have been able to see it, but it's something else I forgot. I've got so many stuff in this. I can't hardly move in this room, and you'll see why. So it prints as if it's going upwards like that. They call it a printer, but really it's, because when you print a page, it comes out sort of that way. It doesn't come out relative. I suppose it comes out the print, but that's again another issue differently. And I was always having problems. It wasn't sticking to the bed and folding up. And somebody on Facebook said, "Oh, just discard that stupid card thing. Just put two A4 pieces of paper in there and then re-level it, and you'll be fine." So that's what I did. So I was doing this in my kitchen because I had nowhere else to do it. I've since converted some of my loft up there, being an ex-joiner. So I pulled all the floor up, re-leveled the floor. So it's all completely flat. Got myself, like with your kitchen tops and things like that, and I put some of that, and then I put the thing. I may show it in things if people are interested, just to see what it looks like on maybe on the second video or something like that. Just a little few minutes of off my phone because it won't look great on anything else. But anyway, so that's the premise, and I just started building up from there. But it's taken this long because of the problem with the space bars. Now, obviously, talking to other people, it's not as simple. The problem with over the Amiga, let's say over the Commodore 64, for an example, the Commodore Amiga, the keyboards are done so cheaply. The spring systems are so cheap, they're so flimsy in the sense of really light. Compared to the 64, it's like a bullet is a 64 compared to the difference. The springs are really good, they're really, thing. So that was the problem. You can't put too much weight on it because what will happen is the key will sag. And obviously, sagging, it could be a different level. You've got all them things to worry about, especially on the spacebar. So it's taken me all this time. And the reason why is I think I've printed way on excess of 75 different iterations of a spacebar, no matter which, but all the versions put together. And then I greatly bumped into one of my ex bosses, a complete gentleman, loving debate, and always will do, respect him, thingy. Unfortunately, what happened with his work is work. And anyway, so I bumped in, and she said, "Oh, go see him." Now, at the time, I didn't know what he had there. I hadn't seen him for 8 years, so, things change and whatever. And we went over, had a cup of tea, as you do in England, because tea's tea, in it. And we're having a chin wag, and he was showing me around because we're nerds. He might be he's in his 60s, but he's a real nerd, and he likes, tech and things. And we were chatting around. Anyway, we walked into his place, and he had a CNC machine there. And I said, "Well, what the hell's that?" Because I didn't know what it was at the time. And he says, "Oh, I can do all these things." And I went, "Oh, yeah." Now, I'd been trying desperately around where I live and all sorts to get a jig built. I knew that if I could get a jig built for the spacebar, and fortunately I've got for the other ones, it will make it flat. So when you take it out, like I said, you take it out this build plate, and it's got all supports and things. Again, I might show you these things in the second video. So will be a second video, and I'll go through that. So you put it in this jig, and then it straps it down with tie wraps, and that keeps it flat. So I clean it and then do that, and then I cure it. There's just two stages. There's a curing to cure, and it spins it round to cures it. Then I leave it. Depending on what colour it is, some might have 10 minutes of the space, and some might only have 5, depending on what sort of it is, what sort of colour. Because if you over cure something, especially if you're white, you can actually make it go yellow. So you've got to be, these things. Again, it's all this testing that I have had to do to get used to it. Anyway, that recently in May sorted the problem out. So I said, right then, I'm going to do the final keys. This is why I've had a video before, but nothing was final. So that's why I spent all this time putting the final. But actually, I wasn't doing it on on the original Amiga stuff that I had. I was actually doing it on a Commodore 64. That's the one I tested it on because I was actually test printing them. It was just a spacebar was the problem. So I did that, and it worked beautifully. It's absolutely jet black straight. It's how it's supposed to be. Then I put it on, and it was like revolutionary. And I just like you can imagine a sigh of relief. I think it was the original. Well, when I did the original, and the machine is actually down here. It's been changed since. It's got updated colours and different colours. But I'd done it, and I'd done a put and I was in tears. And but man, no, the reason why is because I'd spent so much time putting it together, and then when you get to the state of testing it, and it works, it's like revolution. You've run to it. So anyway, so that was the premise, and I've been in that since May putting all this together. But like I said, you've just not just got the Amiga, you've actually got the Commodore 64 bread bin, and I'll go out on a limb that you've got the Commodore 64C as well. Now, I don't think anybody's ever tackled that. That was one of the hardest ones I've ever tried to, one, design, and two, print. And I'll go through the print. It's not, these keys, they're not transfers. And I'll stipulate, they're not transfers. It's completely different. And you'll see why I did it this way. And it's only recently that I've been able to do what I wanted to do originally, to be able to do different coloured keys, as in what you call a glyphs, things like that. So anyway, without further ado, we'll start with a 500. Like I said, I'm going to have to go back and forth, and then I'll go over the other bits of it as well. So 2 seconds. It's a little bit different to show on a camera, but you will see, as you can see here, some people have never. This is, I took this to the show. I'm trying to get it in focus then. But that's obviously a 5. And this is actually quite a rare one. This is actually a 1.2 version. But you see, there's an OLED screen there. Yes, it's an OLED. And all the little the badges as well, even going down to the badge, you could give me the actual badge number. And I can't even see, because I can't see it in it. And you would see the badge. Now, I print that as well and do that as well. For the machine, you don't need to do that, but it's finished off. Now, I'll also stipulate, if I turn this, you can see that that's grey inside. I'll show you a bit later the reason why. I don't know whether it's OCD, but I like everything to be. I don't particularly like the, even though you're never going to see it. But that's the 500 version anyway. You've got different colours, and I still want to bring more colours to the table as well. So that's the 500 one thing. I'll pick up another one here. Apologies again. Now this one, it's not been changed. Now the reason why I haven't done it is because you've only got so much time in the world, and I wanted to show the difference that you can see from that one to this one. Now, some of the keys on here are different. They look differently, and I'll go through them. So, if I can just put this up, where is it? If you look at the, for example, the shift keys, it's very difficult to show. But if you look at, you can see them there. They now look differently, more like the original. They also, things like, where is the key? I can't see it because I'm upside down. There she is. This key here, that, as you can see, it's up at the top, where now it's more where it's supposed to be. These are about 20% larger than what the new ones are. The new ones fit closer to the original. It was to do with understanding how to print it, which direction, all sorts of different things. But you can also see the screen. The screen on that one is actually a lot smaller, because I wanted it the same size. It gives it a little bit more room, and it's a different bracketing system. There's all sorts of different things. You can't probably see it, and you can't see it. That's the wrong way around. Well done, Pig. You can see there. Obviously, that's it. There's a Gore-Tex in there. But if you can see the floppy drive, mine are not the same as everybody else's. I've designed my own system, and I'll show you that and the reason why later on. I've done all sorts of stuff. I'm probably an idiot, but there you go. You know what I mean? It's just the way you go. Right, so there's your 500 plus. Now let's pick up another machine. Yeah, we've got a few more to go through. We'll go through them all, you know, like, 'cause you'll be interested to see. That's what I said, they're all physical machines. So obviously this is a 600, and it's blue. The only trouble is, as you can see there, the transparent, because this is transparent blue, you can see the glue. I don't like that. I'm going to redesign that at the back. So if, for say, somebody, you don't have to come to me to screen. You can go to Derek. Derek does them as well. I think it's a bit smaller than mine, but he can do all that and things like that. I just did them because obviously that's just the way I decided to do. So anyway, yeah. So you've got the blue version. Again, all these have got a Gore-Tex in. Oh, wrong way around. All these have got a Gore-Tex in. The decent thing over this Gore-Tex compared to the teeny one, if you've ever seen it, is you just have to put the files on there and it'll work. You don't have to put any software or anything like that, and it'll just work off a USB. I've also been a programmer, or an ex-programmer at this precise moment. I created a lot of stuff that will allow you to do that for you. So you can press a button, it'll create the folders for you on your local system. You can then run this other one and select where you want them, and it'll create the folders, and it'll only put files over that have a file in. So if you create one, say A, you put a file in there for A, and it will just do that for you. You don't have to mess about, you don't have to copy the things over and things like that. So yeah, so that's a little 600. Same principle, sorry, but you can see my label, that's my label there, and it's upside down, but you get the concept of the label there. Again, you can give me the things. Now this one is one of the unique ones I've decided to do. I'm not a great lover. I've just put it down there. I wasn't a great lover of the colour to start with, but it's actually grown on me. And here's a white one. Now this one is monumentally difficult to do. As you see, it's black. And I go through the colours. Now this is what I said before is, now you could have, potentially on this white, you could have a red keys. You could have a green keys. Now I've got to test this. This is why this is going to be in the second video. But you've got options now that you just do not have if you go somewhere else. I've opened it up as much as I can do to have because people like what they like, you know what I mean? I'm sure I'll get somebody coming, can I have a sky blue blink with red dots on it? No, that's not how I could do it. But you know what I mean? So you've got all that. Again, you've got it's all Gore-Tex, it's all the same, and you've got your little floppy. The normal one, if it's white, like the other ones, take probably about an hour to fill in. Now again, so I've got, but these take about 3 hours because I cannot have the black colour because it could stain the colour, so I've got to clean it off. And yes, I know, it's mad, but that's the way it goes. Right, so now we've done the smaller ones. Let's go to the slightly bigger one, shall we? Sorry. It's all mental. And I know what one of the lads is going to say. That's my machine. Yes, it was your machine, Darren. I know it's still the same machine. He always says it, so that's why because if he sees the video, he'll always write to me and say, "That's my bloody machine, you." But anyway, there's the 1200. Now this originally, when I did it, was black keys with the grey on, and I decided I didn't like it. I thought, do you know something? I'll try the white ones. And actually, it looks actually quite spectacular with the white. It brings it out. Obviously, you can have any command colours. You could have, let's say, red at the top. And there's different colours. There's at this precise moment. There's black, there's grey, there's white, there's transparent blue, there's transparent red. There could be other colours, but obviously I tried to keep it. This one's slightly different. The keys are. No, I'm not using. I wanted to use a different resin to see what it interacts. That's the problem. I tend to try and use the same resin because I know how it's going to react, and that's another thing. Yeah, same principle. Gore-Tex in there. I don't know where my things are. Oh, there is it there? Yeah, Gore-Tex in there. Same thing. 2 seconds. Right now you're getting into. I've just got a couple more machines, and I think you'll be. The ones that are interested in, let's say, the Commodore 64, because I was never originally going to do it, and I just had it there. And Derek gave me some. She said, "No, I'll just borrow them," and we were, and that. And so I borrowed them, and then I just bought some of my own. I said, "Well, I'll just borrow some of my own." and that's what these are. But anyway, I'll show you these. The label on these isn't mine. I bought the label because it's a bit more. So there's your Commodore 64 keyboard. I hope you quite like that. Obviously, I've got them coloured, an original case. That's what I said. I am going to do a complete blue set, what you saw in the 600 there, but into a normal coloured case. I just thought, and that's going to be in the second video. I haven't done it yet, but I want to do that anyway. And I hope I'm trying to get that. So you can see how the detail looks in that. So that's what I said. They printed. I should have actually brought with me a blank one. I might have a blank one there. I've got so much stuff all over. I never know where it is. But there, yeah. So that's your Commodore 64 bread bin, the famous bread bin. And now we're going into I would say the pièce de resistance of the Commodore 64. Like I said, I'll go on a limb. I don't think anybody's ever attempted this. Here is your Commodore 64C keyboard in white with the black. That took me to fill in about 3.5 hours. It's tiny. So I think actually there's several different versions of this. People will know you can technically mix and match. You can mix and match of what you want, because the casings on the 64 down there and they are the same. It's just what I call the glyphs. So you can see here. And all these will be coming to the show. All the machines that you'll see will be coming to the show. So you can have a look at them. You can press a button. You can go, oh, well, you know what I mean. Like I said, all these labels on the 64, I went to eBay and I even did the guy. I've sent him some images of these so he can have them on his eBay page. So if you wanted to buy them and you see this one and the one down there with that colour, you know where they're from. They're from me, and that's the guy that I've used. So that's why I thought, because it's always nice to see it on a machine than just seeing it there. What's it going to look like? What's it this? Because there was options. You could have I wanted it the same as the, original one. So that's it. Obviously, I've got, even up here, I'll grab them. Everybody knows what an original, if you can, there's the 600. This is a beautiful 600. Always smells of roses, and I don't know why. It's years, but it still smells of roses. And it even has its own original floppy disk, which is unusual these days. So that's the original one. This one is the floppy drive doesn't work, and I got this later on. I would say 2.5 years ago, and it still needs to go to Derek to get back. So there's your original. You can see all the yellowing and things. I thought I'd show that, not for the people that already know what one is, but people that don't know what the original one's from. So yeah. Sorry, I haven't got a 500. I have, but I've got my originals when I was 15, but they're in boxes. Now, also, I wanted to show this. Now, this is an inside of a 600. What the small ones you've just seen. And to show what I do over anybody else is I get the shields sprayed. Not cheap. But you can see why. If you look at the back, that's all black. When it's on a black case, it's just how I am. This is why I would never sell anything until I knew it was right, or potentially sell anything. A lot of these machines are going to be sold on. Because I've got so many. At the last count, I think there's 14 Amigas. And I've got a couple of CD32s that should they've all been recapped, all working and on everything. They should go, there's a whole host of things that I need to, because I just haven't got a place to keep them all. I mean, they're in the bedroom at the moment in boxes to try, because I don't want them in the loft for obvious reasons and things. But anyway, yeah, that's by the by. So you can see the stuff that I like to do, even though it's inside, nobody's going to see it, but personally it's been done just because of the black, Right then. So let's go through some other little bits. Now you've seen, like I said, the overall machines. They're all physical machines. And like I said, with the other bits. And I wanted to show a couple of other bits inside that you won't normally see. I just have to grab something and find something, because sometimes I've got it all over. But if you'll know that most people will know what that bracket That's the floppy for the Gore-Tex. But the problem is this. This is the one I've always complained with. The design's not great, and it knackered my hands the first time I put it on, and that's why I wasn't happy. The problem is, if you don't get this lined up, this will never line up, and it's always a hole and always everything. Well, I wasn't having that. I'm not willing. So I've designed. You've got one for I think the 500, the 500. I think the 500 Plus uses the same as the 1200, but I'm not too sure. Can't remember. It might even be using the same as the 500. But this is a 600 one. So as you can see, it's all bolted. There's all bolts. And you've got your little flop here. This actually goes in and out to line up with the edge of the floppy. There's actually, I can't remember, there's actually like a plastic thing that goes on there that slides in. So when you tighten it, it doesn't turn. I can't find it. I'll probably put it safe and it's somewhere. But that's the 600 version. Obviously, the others are very similar, because it's this design. But that one was... the reason why it's like that is the shield, as you can see, the top shield. If you don't have a shield, you can have the original version I created. But because of the top shield, it blocks off some of the things. So you couldn't slide the slider and the floppy very well. So basically, I said, I'm not having that. I'm going to redesign that. Most people chuck the shields. But I don't, or they weren't on when I found them, and I've just gone and bought one on eBay that's got the shields themselves are full shield, because I have a few spare up there, I think. But anyway, yeah, so you've got that, and there's another little bit that comes out here to bolt it on. So that's that bit. We also, I've just seen, this was a testing of the screen, so that's why I wanted to show, but you can't, at the moment, there was two different versions. I've left it out so much. Sorry. Actually, the 500 Plus has got the all screen type, and that was only had at the front one down there, and it had two at the back. But what I found was that it wasn't always holding on to the thing, so I wasn't happy. Again, this is what design testing and everything is. If I'd have done that after and said, oh, it's all going to be like this, and then I've had to change it in a render, you put it in a render, that to me is, it's different. Why is it that, because you're not testing it, but that's how it works. So this is a 4 bracket. So it goes between your, as you can see here, I'll pick up the 500 again. As you can see, it goes between the bars. So mine has 3 bars on to hold it down, to hold it in there. Now, obviously, that's been sprayed. So that's another problem. If you didn't have it sprayed, it would probably fit, it would be easy to fit because you push it in more and it goes through. Sometimes it's a bit more when you spray it, but it does stay, and it stays. The original one sometimes could pop off after a period of time, which I obviously didn't really want that. So that's why, a test, as you can see, it's a bit bored because it's just the way I printed it, and I don't print it the same, but that's, Now, I wanted to go into the, oh no, we'll leave them for now. So I'll just grab up. So you can see here, that's the rotary arm. I get these, like I said, I get this and the LCD that I'm just going to show you from Derek, Amiga Spirit. He's the one that sells all these things. I like this big rotary thing. I think it's really nice. The only thing I wish you could get a different colour and it wasn't just black, like a white or something else to fit in with something. But that's just me, you know what I mean? But most people won't want that. And also the tiny little screen. And yes, it is an OLED, strangely. I know it's bonkers what you can get these days. But yeah, it's a little OLED. I don't know what he sells this for, so I don't want to say a price and it's wrong. But you're talking of 50 quid plus. Anything I would say between 50 and 100 quid. I don't know. His prices may have changed. I don't want to say exactly because I might get it wrong. So yeah, so you've got the little LCD, which is obviously fits in there. But like I said, it's brilliant because you just put your games on or whatever. You copy your originals off your things. Let's be right here. Yeah, okay, whatever. And do it that way. So, and also there's sort of the relatively last little bit that I can relatively sort of think of is. If you see here, now I'll show you the back of a key. So that's the spit. As you can see here, That's the new spit. This is no, I don't even know left and right here. This is the new one. You can see it looks more like the original. This is the well, I was turning it around. The old one. You can see where it's full. So that's what you're getting. That's why you could see the difference in the thing. So again, recently I've designed that out. It's all about learning. But if I turn the keys, it's the same. It doesn't matter which one. But if I turn the keys back, you see the little bridges down here. Now, on the original Amiga, you have the little brackets, the white brackets. Most of them are white, but you may have a black one. It's very unusual. But obviously on the key. Now, I didn't want you to have to rip them off to put them on mine. You don't need any of that. You just leave your original keys alone. And there's certain things like that I've put in. So you would put your bracket between them two, and then it moves back and forth on on this little shelf. And then you just clip it in and push it down. Some of them are easier than the others. The worst one of a lot of them is the 500. And I just can't begin to tell you how much of a nightmare that one is. Even to design it was a pig. And the spacebar was as complicated as that, because of the way it is. And that one, you have to do a bit different. You tend to have to bend the bars out and then put them back in because you don't want to snap anything. Remember, resin is not like plastic. It doesn't. Once it's on, you're fine. No problem at all. It works perfectly fine. Does whatever. But I've had to design things to allow it not to, to snap, because I know what people like. I'm exactly the same. I got this and it was already snapped. I don't want that for you, and I don't want that for me either. So I've tried to, especially in the 600. Now the 600 is the flipping cheapest design ever in the world of anything. If you know the 600, it's very difficult. I think I've got actually, never got one. Yes, I have got one. That's it. I bag everything, bag everything up so I don't lose anything. And if you were, like I said, if you were buying any of mine eventually, you'd get the original keys with it. I don't want the original keys. I don't think it's right to sell them to somebody else to make more. I don't like that. It's not the way I am. But anyway, as you can see, the original, these, I'm just trying to point to them. These little things here and the 600. The problem being with this in resin compared to plastic, as this is resin does not like, it can break easy if it's designed wrong or whatever. Now, in the last 3 or 4 weeks, I wasn't having it. You can actually, if you saw the little 600, the 600 white has the new designed, the space bar has the new designed, the 600 basically has the enter key and the space bar. They're designed with this stupid little bracket system, which is awful. You can't change it. It's just the way that the Commodore or whoever designed it did it. I don't understand why they didn't do it like the original. I know they were trying to, because they were losing money and they didn't have a lot of money. They cheaped out on it, and I wish they hadn't to do it. It's like, you already had the designer, why change it? You know what I mean? But anyway, I'm sure Mr. Pleasance could explain that sort of thing. He is a gentleman. He's lovely to talk to every time I see him at the show. But anyway, that's a different story. So what I've done with my version, it looks very similar. But if you really look at the 600, because I'm on the camera, I can't draw it out, but you've got like a little bar and it curves. That's what the bar fits in. But what I've done is I've done this relatively the same on the other side, but because resin, how you have to print it, mine then has a B like that to allow the resin to, come out. But then you have a retaining block at the back of it. So when you push, you can do it 2 ways. You can push straight down with your finger like that, if you can get it in. Because some people, are not ambidextrous or whatever, you know what I mean? The fingers are not like other people's. Or you can push it in and you'll hear a clip, which is very similar to the original. But because that bar this is why it took me about 2 weeks to design. I did about 10 different versions, so I'm messing about trying to get it right, is because when you push that over, see, in in plastic, you've got a bit of give. But in resin, it doesn't work like that. And I know people are going to say, well, you just print it in but you just print that in another colour. Oh, yeah, you want to try it? I've tried it. basically blank that out, and then have a 3mm. Can you imagine? I mean, I've got tiny hands. Can you imagine somebody with great big hands trying to fit a 3mm and glue it in? They're going to glue the finger, they're going to do this. And I can imagine they would be so annoyed. I'd get the worst email I could ever imagine. This design, and I understand, and I agree with them. So I wasn't having that. So like I said, I'd built the bar at the back, so when you push in, that top comes over, but because there's another bar, it holds it into... I mean, if you jam and mash it in, then you'll probably snap it. But I don't want that. And things like that, you know, you'd get photos and say, look, these... Because remember, they're all... Even though they're printed, the last result is I have to make sure that they're all spot on. I have to look at every single key. I have to fill, on Amiga alone, the 1200, like 80-odd keys. And that's what I wanted to talk about. I don't know whether I have some keys here. No, probably. Oh, no. Oh, there we go. Just so happen to have one. It's very difficult to see. If I can come in close to the camera, you can see it there. As a test one I had. It's a bit thingy because I was fiddling about with something. But you can see the little characters where they're not even filled in. And then you can see this even on one on here, on a little, see? So I have to fill that in. I have to manually fill that in to the colour that whatever we decide. But that opens it up to all sorts of different colours. So like I said, you don't have to have it. Now I'm going to go do some... that's another thing. I'm going to go do some testing. So that'll be the second video. To see what colours would work with, let's say, the black or the white. Because the white's easy because you could have maybe a yellow, you could maybe have an orange, you could maybe have a red, you know. You're trying to the different scales. So the black is the worst one because you don't want a dark red. You want a really light red or a lime green, you know, because that will stick out. But these are the tested. So anyway, I think that's covered. I'm sure I've forgotten tons of things. That's why I've said in the second video. So I hope you enjoyed that. Like I said, they're all physical machines. They're not like renders or anything. I will be bringing all what you see to the, not the original ones, but the others to the show. I'm going to leave them as is. I'm not touching and fiddling with them because you end up fiddling with it. Ooh, I wonder if I did it that way, that would be, you know what I mean? But no, I'm not going to do that. And by all means, come and just have a chat and have a chin wag. And, say hello and see what you reckon. And like I said, it's taken 3 years of, sometimes I got so peed off for it, I've stopped for a month or so, you know, because it's so distorted. If you can imagine, you spend all that time designing it, it's not like as if you were, if you're a programmer or if you say, you make a mistake, you rechange it. It's anything physical. Anytime I print one and it's wrong or something hasn't worked or it's off the bit or whatever, it's a waste. It's money down the drain or it's whatever. And then you're back to square one. So then you try, thinking, right, what happened to that? Why didn't it work? Why this? And I'm like doing a magnifying glass. Now, if you look at especially this, I'll go back because I think it's important to make people realise how I've tried to, get it as close to the original as I can. If you take the glyphs on that one, for an example, even on the 64, the other one, them little glyphs under the keys are 3mm by 3mm. But and then the actual gap between them, if you take the rectangle, is 1/4 millimeter. And I'm trying to design for that, and I'm also trying to print for that. I know that if it goes under something like that, I'll never be able to find a filler because see with a filler, it's not just a filler. You can't just say, right, I'll go down and go to, I don't really want to advertise the place, but say B&Q and go and get it. It doesn't work like that because different fillers have grit and things in. So this is an amalgamation between a white and a colour to be able to get the black. And the reason why that's important is you cannot use any silicon-based seal. It won't work. Well, it'll work, but the trouble is when you ram it, you get that blurry scum over it. And trying to get that off a key, you have to get it off because if you don't get it off, it's permanent, And I wasn't wanting that. So that black, on the white, not the white, not any one of the white ones, because obviously that's the original colour, but I have to mix it with a pigment colour, if you like, to get the colour that I want. So that's why it opens up everything. Anyway, talking about that, I hope you enjoy this. Sorry for the length, it's nearly 40 minutes long, but I tried to go through all sorts of things. I'm sure there's things I've forgotten, but like I said, we will have another video for the blue one, the Commodore 64, and I'll show that. And then if there's anything else I wanted to say to people, then it will be that. Anyway, take care. We will see you in the next video. Bye for now.